I stumbled through the front door, the cold biting at my knuckles, still raw from chopping wood at the cabin upstate. It had been a long weekend alone, no cell service, just me, the axe, and the whispering pines. I told Jenna I needed the space, a break from her constant chatter about yoga retreats and organic kale smoothies. She'd rolled her eyes, called me a grumpy old man at 32, and waved me off like I was some kid sulking to his treehouse. That was Friday. Now it was Monday night, and the house smelled wrong the second I stepped inside, like burnt coffee and something sweeter, muskier, that didn't belong. Jenna, I called, dropping my duffel bag by the couch. The living room was dim, just the flicker of a candle she'd left burning on the coffee table. No answer. My boots thudded against the hardwood as I headed for the kitchen, and that's when I saw them, muddy footprints, smeared across the tile like a sloppy signature. They weren't mine. I'd kicked my boots off at the door. They weren't Jenna's either. Her dainty sneakers couldn't leave a mark that big, that careless. My stomach twisted, a hot knot of dread coiling tight. Jenna! I shouted again, louder, my voice bouncing off the walls. She appeared at the top of the stairs, her blonde hair tangled, wearing one of those oversized sweatshirts she loved. She looked startled, her green eyes wide, but there was something else there, something slippery, like she'd been caught mid-lie. "Edgar, you're back early," she said, her voice too high, too bright. She hurried down the stairs, tugging the sweatshirt over her hips like it was armor. I didn't hear the car. "Whose footprints are those?" I pointed at the kitchen floor, my finger trembling. I could feel the heat creeping up my neck, the kind that comes before you say something you can't take back. She glanced at the mud, then back at me, blinking fast. "Oh, that? It's nothing. Sarah stopped by earlier. She brought me some of that homemade jam she's always going on about. You know how clumsy she is." "Sarah," I said, my voice flat. Sarah was her yoga buddy, a wiry little thing with perpetually flushed cheeks. I'd seen her trip over her own feet at a barbecue last summer, sure, but those prints were heavy, deliberate. Men's boots. Since when does Sarah wear work boots? Jenna laughed, a sharp, brittle sound that grated on my nerves. "Don't be ridiculous, Edgar. It's just mud. I'll clean it up. You're exhausted. Why don't you shower, and I'll heat up some leftovers." I didn't move. I stared at her, at the way her hands fluttered to her hair, smoothing it down like she was preening for someone else. She'd always been a lousy liar. Her tells were as loud as a siren. The sweet musk in the air hit me again, stronger now, and I noticed the faint red mark on her neck, half hidden by the sweatshirt collar. A hickey? My chest tightened, my fists clenching at my sides. "Edgar, stop looking at me like that," she snapped, her tone shifting from fake cheer to irritation. "You're paranoid. You always have been. Paranoid." I stepped closer, towering over her petite frame. She didn't flinch, just jutted her chin out like she dared me to push it further. "Then why's it smell like cologne in here?" "Cheap cologne." Her face went pale, then red, and she shoved past me, muttering something about me being dramatic. I let her go, my eyes drifting back to those footprints. They led toward the back door, where the lock was unlatched, something Jenna never forgot to check. My mind raced, replaying her excuses, her jittery hands, that damn mark on her neck. I wasn't tired anymore. I was awake, burning, and I knew I wouldn't sleep until I figured out who'd been in my house. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened, humming over her coffee while I sat across from her, silent. She babbled about her day, work, yoga, a new smoothie recipe, while I stared at the kitchen floor, scrubbed clean now, like it had never been touched. But I wasn't stupid. I started watching her closer. The way she clutched her phone, texting with her back turned. The late-night errands she suddenly had to run. The way she flinched when I touched her, like my hands were sandpaper. Then came the jacket. I found it shoved in the hall closet, buried under her winter coats, a beat-up denim thing, men's large, stinking of that same cheap cologne. My blood ran cold. I held it up, the fabric rough against my palms, and when she walked in, her eyes went wide before she could plaster on that fake smile. "Whose is this?" I asked, my voice low, dangerous. "Sarah's boyfriend's," she said, too quick. "He came with her yesterday. Left it behind." "Sarah's boyfriend?" I repeated, stepping toward her. "What's his name?" She hesitated, one beat too long. "Mike." "Mike?" I said, nodding slow. "Funny. Sarah's been single since her divorce last year." "Try again, Jenna." Her mouth opened, then shut, and I saw it, the panic, the guilt, the lie crumbling right there in her eyes. That's when I knew. My wife was sleeping someone else, and she thought I was too dumb to catch her. I didn't confront her again that night. I let her stew, let her think she'd dodged the bullet. But I was done playing dumb. The next day, I called in sick to my construction job and tailed her. She left the house at noon, claiming a lunch date with Sarah. I followed her beat-up Honda through the drizzle, keeping 2 cars back, until she pulled into a dingy motel off Route 17. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. Then I saw him, some lanky bastard in a leather jacket, leaning against a pickup truck, smirking as she ran to him. They didn't even make it inside before he had his hands on her, right there in the parking lot. I snapped a dozen photos with my phone, my breath fogging the windshield. His face was clear as day, patchy beard, crooked nose, a guy I'd never seen before. Not Mike, not anyone from her yoga clique. A stranger defiling my marriage. I sat there, shaking, until they disappeared into room 12. Then I drove home, the images searing into my brain. That night, I dug deeper. Her phone was locked, but I knew her laptop password, our anniversary. The irony wasn't lost on me. Emails, texts, a whole secret life spilled out. His name was Travis, some mechanic from the next town over. They'd been at it for months, motels, late-night calls, even our own damn bed when I was at the cabin. I read it all, my vision blurring with rage, until I found the kicker. They were planning to run off together next week, using money she'd siphoned from our joint account. I didn't sleep. I was emotionally distressed. So I decided to follow them. And when they were in the hotel and ordered alcohol and dinner, I arranged everything so that I was the one who brought it for them. I made a scandal that attracted the attention of other visitors. I definitely ruined the evening for them. Then I went to withdraw money from our joint account,